The cultural phenomenon The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives is back with an all-new season now streaming on Hulu.
Where is everyone at?
Mom talk has gotten to a really hostile point.
Demi's willing to kick Jesse out of the group.
I feel like I'm walking into a lion's den.
It's gonna get messy, for sure.
Mom talk is turning on each other left and right.
The police are here.
I can't see this going any other way but a pure bloodbath.
This is so toxic.
The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives now streaming on Hulu.
If you work as a manufacturing facilities engineer, installing a new piece of equipment can be as complex as the machinery itself. From prep work to alignment and testing, it's your team's job to put it all together. That's why it's good to have Grainger on your side. With industrial-grade products and next-day delivery, Grainger helps ensure you have everything you need close at hand through every step of the installation. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Talk the Block, the show where we talk about the HGTV hit series Rock the Block. I'm Amy, and I am here with my knowledgeable co-host, Steven. Steven, how are you doing today?
Knowledgeable. I guess I dressed down too much this week. I got that nice compliment about my attire last week. I promise everybody out there I'm not wearing the same thing.
Well, they're just lucky they can't see us. That's all we have
kidding.
to say.
Yeah, this is not made for TV stuff right here. Let me tell you.
No, not at all. But hey, we are excited to be here to talk to you about Season 6, Episode 6. In this case, Size Matters.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not quite sure what this refers to, whether it refers to the large backyards or the large outbuildings and other sorts of things that people had drug into their backyard spaces.
I don't know. I think they went crazy.
Yes, we will talk about who went crazy and who went the craziest this week in the Backyard
that's gonna be a
Challenge.
tough one.
Yeah. So anyway, this week started with what was framed as a surprise. Each of the teams was gifted an additional $50,000 to work on the backyard.
Yeah, big time. Suddenly they were able to spend it really quick.
Yeah. Now, my question, Stephen, is did they know this was coming?
No, I don't think so. I think they totally bought all that stuff. They're just going down the street.
They went to Bob's Containers R Us and got a fully furnished and functional casita for the backyard in 2 days.
Well, they had the extra day because of bad weather, right? So, I mean, if they hadn't had the bad weather day, we'd have probably just seen a couple of outhouses. I don't know.
I suspect that they knew, because otherwise I don't believe Alison and Michel would have spent down to only $35,000 left had they not known they were going to get extra money for the backyard. Because for $35,000 to finish the backyard and the whole rest of their house would have been nearby impossible, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, and well, money wasted. But just quick comment.
You're giving away
foreshadowing my commentary on that pathetic backyard.
Yeah, so we had, I would say, 4 quite different approaches to what to do in the backyard.
Well, I guess it wasn't. I guess it was not boring. I'll say that it was not boring. I yawned, but no, it was not boring what any of them did.
No, I didn't think it was boring. I thought they all had a clear point of view in what they did. I think for me, it was less exciting than last year's when they were in Florida and they all built swimming pools and they had they had a huge deck and all kinds of interesting treatment there. I think maybe the space was almost too big and they couldn't figure out how to use it effectively, right? So they, with a whole acre to fill up,
right.
Some of them looked rather empty. I don't know. It just wasn't what I don't know. Maybe that was the whole issue. It was almost too much space. And at the end of the day, They didn't look super cohesive. I would say, except for the winner, was probably the most cohesive, in my opinion.
Well, I guess we'll get to that discussion. But yeah, Tristan and Kamohai were talking about how they never have anything that big, and
no one has that big of a plot.
and
in
Alison's
Hawaii,
in Chicago, for goodness sake. So, not really dealing with a lot of acreage there. Usually, I'm guessing. I don't know. And then with the farmhouse duo, the old kids on the block. Probably not. And, Chelsea and Cole said they had 23 acres?
25 acres,
25
which
acres?
Doesn't sound like a backyard. That sounds like a mini farm to me.
That sounds awesome, in my opinion. That sounds awesome.
We're not moving to South Dakota.
No, we were going to move to Montana. I was trying to get you to move to Montana. You remember the Big Sky house hunters?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
we'll talk
love to have
about that later.
3,000 square foot house on 25 acres because you don't have any neighbors.
All right. So with that cheery thought, let's go ahead and take a short break, and we'll get into what the teams actually did with their $50,000 bonus.
The cultural phenomenon The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives is back with an all-new season now streaming on Hulu.
Where is everyone at?
Mom talk has gotten to a really hostile point.
Demi's willing to kick Jesse out of the group.
I feel like I'm working into a lion's den.
It's going to get messy, for sure.
Mom talk is turning on each other left and right.
The police are here.
I can't see this going any other way but a pure bloodbath.
This is so toxic.
The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives now streaming on Hulu.
Okay.
Are we back?
We're back. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Hey, I should have said one more thing about the kickoff to the show.
Oh, goodness
It
gracious.
looked like these people were freezing to death. They had giant parkas on, and even the team from South Dakota looked downright cold. So,
Yeah, and I think we saw snow when the judging was going on. Something was flying by in the air.
yeah, so it looked like they had bad weather, and they actually got an extra day to work on it because of the bad weather. And then by the time they did the judging, and who knows how the timing of all this actually takes place, but by the time they did the judging, they all looked like they were freezing again.
Oh, yeah. And then, if you looked off in the distance, it looked like there was something really ugly rolling in, too. I don't know who picked the timing of doing this work in Utah and whether they thought, hey, late fall would be a great time to do this.
Yeah, and those
or fall.
it's so open and it's desert, and it has to just
Brutal.
get cold. The wind just whipping
Brutal,
through
brutal,
there because
brutal.
there's no structure or anything to stop it.
But
so.
it's a dry cold.
Yeah, that's for
Very
sure.
low humidity.
It's a dry
cold. So it's not that bad. It's not that bad.
So let's start by talking about Chelsea and Cole. They basically really leaned into their family theme and built basically a community play yard in their backyard, I would say. I mean, it was very, very, very kids focused.
I'm not sure I saw anything cowboy. No cowboy.
right.
I mean, I don't think the teams this week were really kind of judged on, their motif style. It got mentioned by the judges a couple
Jonathan and
times.
Jordan really did have the modern farmhouse thing going with their backyard.
Yeah, and I think they with the Alison they saw the
refined rustic.
The refined. They saw the refined part.
If you stood by the container and looked at the house, you got refined rustic.
Oh, that's right. That's the rustic was the containers that hadn't rusted. It's refined rusted or rustic. I'm not sure.
Well, anyway, we're going to talk about Chelsea and Cole first.
Yep.
And they did manage to get some black in this week. On their deck, they did an extension of the kitchen with a black railing.
Yep.
And really just put like a table on there or something. It was basically just like, hey, you can eat out here.
Yeah.
Where they really focused was in the yard. And they had actually 3 big components to what they did in the yard.
Yeah.
They did the dug into the ground trampoline.
Right.
They did the humongous children's play set.
Yep.
And then I think the smartest thing they did, and I'm not sure that they got credit for it in the judging, was they fenced in the whole backyard, which seems to me like if you're going to be family friendly, the fence would be sort of your number one thing to go with, right? Because your dogs, your kids, whatever age they are, having that fence seemed to me to be very practical.
Yeah, they did get credit because I think they gave it away, which was Leslie and which was Lindsay. But I may have written it down wrong. But yeah, they gave them credit because they thought that it was tough to get a fence in on the amount of money that they had to work with. So they did get credit for that.
Yeah.
That was about the only thing that I thought that was smart. I thought the fence looked beautiful. The deck was meh. Okay, they had wood and they had wood ceiling and they had a wood floor and they had a dining room table and they had a place to sit.
That's
Yeehaw!
about it. Yeah.
Yeehaw, cowboy! And
what were your thoughts on the dug-in trampoline?
Well, it fits Utah.
Yeah, I think trampolining is very popular in Utah. So that was probably, from that sense, it was a good move.
Well, and they said it was an Olympic training type of trampoline, which, I don't know, goes back to the whole, where are you spending your money? Could you do an underground trampoline with a less costly one and then maybe have a little bit more accoutrements in the yard? I think that did notice that their backyard was all grass. Mm-hmm. Then the other teams had, Alison and Michel still had their typical budget problems. Mm-hmm. And so they didn't have grass. But I don't know what the other people's problems, but the grass looked good. And so I think it really did look like a nice, cohesive backyard for somebody that's making a house for kids.
Yes.
So, and to some extent, I disagree that, the ball pit might be hard for me to play in, but, the slide could be fun.
I think
I can't see me using it.
No.
If you don't have kids, if you have kids or if you're a grandparent, something like that would be useful if you've got younger grandkids coming over. So I think it is a very niche, but I don't think it's necessarily going to be as big of a problem. But I think Lindsay or Leslie did call out that somebody else made a decision that would be costly to change, and I think getting rid of that playground set would be. I don't know. I mean, I guess it folded out, but still, it's a lot of playground set to get rid of.
Well, I think getting rid of the trampoline, too, because you'd have to fill in the hole.
Yeah.
Right? So I was thinking about that. If you love trampolining, and again, it is a popular sport in Utah, so, you're going to have people that are just going to be like, wow, this is awesome, this dug-in trampoline. But if you are not into trampolining, whether or not you have kids, then you're probably going to have to fill in the hole.
Yeah.
Like one way or the other, Yeah,
I guess, I've never actually used a trampoline. I've seen lots of videos of people using them poorly. I guess one comment I might say is I thought it was too close to the fence. It looked like there were only a couple of feet. Now, I know they did have a border, but if you kind of got a little bit off skew, it seemed like instead of falling off and rolling through the grass, which wouldn't be so bad, you would roll into a fence. So I thought maybe they really should have brought it out into the yard a little bit more.
Maybe.
That might be just a little bit of a nitpick, but
I'm just wondering how the trampoline will hold up to a Utah winter, because you're going to get lots of snow and ice. So I guess I'm assuming there's some sort of trampoline cover that you can put on it, because otherwise it feels like that the lifespan of that is going to be impacted by the rough winters that they have there.
Yeah, we'd guess so. I don't know. That's an interesting point. Don't know how something like that would hold up. Maybe it would hold up better than above ground because it would have the heat from the earth kind of keeping it a little bit warmer. but still.
Yeah. Clearly, we did not do our research on the trampolines.
Yeah, trampolines are us is not our side job.
So anyway, great house if you have kids or grandkids. And I think, they've emphasized over and over again, and it is true that there are a number of big families in Utah. So that's who's going to buy this house. You and I, who don't have young children, are not going to buy this house. It would just be a waste for us to have all of this kid's paradise in the backyard.
Getting back to where they spent their money, they took their frenemy money from last week and they added another slide and the ball pit. And I think that was I think they could have used their money better this week. I think they did make some bad decisions with their money.
Yeah, yet another slide maybe wasn't the best way. They could have done a grill on the deck or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Which, interestingly enough, we didn't see any grills or built-in kitchens or anything like that on the decks, which is maybe because of the winter they're not doing that. But you would think every other season on Rock the Block we've seen a built-in kitchen type of situation, and that really wasn't an emphasis.
No, yeah, you're right. That I think that was a miss. They seem to be too focused on the backyard. Again, to your point, them not having this big backyard before, they probably kind of lost their minds and forgot about I think Alison and Michel didn't forget about the deck, but they kind of moved past the deck and kind of spent most of their time and thoughts on the backyard. It kind of seemed like that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, anything else you want to say about Cole and Chelsea before we move on to the next team?
Well, I keeping track of the budget numbers. For some reason, and I went back and I watched the Week 5 recap. And at the end of Week 5, they had $55K left. And even though they were planning on spending an additional $10K this week, somehow they still wind up with $55K. So I'm not sure how their budget number is still 55 this week. But it looks like they've got the most money going into next week, if that's right. I mean, I think, even if they still spent the $10K, they're going to have the most money going in. But somehow they've got $55K spending $10K this week, and having $55K at the end of last week. I don't know how.
Yeah, the budget. It feels like they give the budget at the beginning, and maybe they don't update it.
Well,
or
but I think
there's some
post-production
inconsistency
work.
going
It's
on
something
in the
they're doing
number.
at the end. I think that's what the recap is supposed to be, and maybe they just missed it. But I'm curious to see how they wound up, because I did get my numbers wrong one week, and I went back and I watched through the shows and figure out where I went wrong. But this time, they were supposed to have $55K coming into this week, and it looks like even though they're spending $10K, they're going to have $55 next week.
And folks, this is the attention to detail you get from the Talk the Block podcast. Stephen will go back and rewatch all the prior episodes to make sure the numbers add up. So you don't have to do that. We're here for you to track the numbers.
Oh my gosh.
That's us at Talk the Block.
It's painful. But anyway, so that would be the last thing I would say about Chelsea and Cole. I think they did a good job on their backyard. I love the fact that there was the grass and the fence was beautiful. So
yeah, the fence was great.
Yeah, what they did in the backyard was like, okay, fine. But the grass and I think the fence kind of make up for it.
Well, I did like their backyard better than the next competitor. But before we talk about that, we're going to take a short break.
The cultural phenomenon The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives is back with an all-new season now streaming on Hulu.
Where is everyone at?
Mom talk has gotten to a really hostile point.
Demi's willing to kick Jesse out of the group.
I feel like I'm working into a lion's den.
It's going to get messy, for sure.
Mom talk is turning on each other left and right.
The police are here.
I can't see this going any other way but a pure bloodbath.
This is so toxic.
The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives now streaming on Hulu.
Okay, we're back, and now we're going to talk about the other rookie team.
Yeah, what a cliffhanger. I'm sitting here wondering, who do I need to be ready for?
Team Aloha.
Aloha.
And Team Aloha told us right from the beginning that they were worried about this because in Honolulu, you just don't have acre lots. You know, they say most of their lots are 5,000 square feet. So having all of this space to work with was a bit of a pickle for them, and I don't think they really solved it. If you look at the aerial view of their backyard, it looks like it's 3 separate backyards.
Yeah, right.
Let's do 3 or 4 different things like we would do for each of our houses, and it really did look to me a little bit disjointed.
And I think you called it out right. Yeah, because they used some red gravel, which would appeal to, was it Utah State?
Yeah, it would appeal
BYU?
to Utah fans, not BYU fans.
Yeah,
so you're alienating the Y and getting the U. So maybe just like Chelsea and Cole, their buyer is children. Somebody who's a fan of Utah is going to be all over that red rock.
Yeah, they could have used a different color rock and not even brought it up as a conversation piece. I mean, I think that's just another little attention to detail miss, right? So,
Yeah, being from Hawaii, maybe they're not football fans, and that just didn't occur to them.
Yeah.
But,
well, there's only the one school. They don't have to worry about having a 2-school sort of issue in your state.
So none of the BYU buyers are going to do that. Yeah. So anyway, that's but that's limiting your audience. What can we say?
Yeah.
So on their deck, I actually liked the hot tub sunken into the deck.
Right.
I love the hot tub on the deck because it's winter. It's cold.
Oh, yeah.
You want to go outside, and there's nothing better than a hot tub with the snow falling around you. That's really great. And so, but you don't want to have to like run off the deck out into the yard, into the hot tub, and then run through the cold air back into the house after you've done your hot tub.
Yeah.
So just having it on the deck where you go outside, you've got that nice little rock where you can sit down, take your shoes off, maybe a hook to hang your robe would be nice, but the homeowner could always add that. But Lindsay and Leslie were having none of the hot tub on the deck. They felt that took up space on the deck that could have been used for, I don't know what, another chair. So I did disagree with the judges on this one.
Yeah, it does take up room. I mean, there's no doubt that it takes up room. I think, and maybe it's a reasonable call out, but one of my first experiences with hot tub was when I was in Plano, Texas in November, which is the coldest winter I've ever spent. It was below 0. And the place they had us staying, I was there for 2-week training. And there was a hot tub, and I used it every night. I mean, it's 0 degrees, and I'm putting on my tracksuit, and it was easy to get to it, So, you get to it, and the steam rising up from the hot tub, and you get undressed, and so it's not so bad. You're in the hot tub, and it's great, just absolutely great. And then you're like, I got to get out of this thing. I got to get out of this thing, and I got to get back to my room before I freeze to death. So, you kind of slowly get out, put your clothes on as you're getting out, and then run back to your room, which was maybe about half a block away. So I was able to do it. I mean, so I'm looking at this going, wow, that would be a lot easier.
I loved it. And the sunken hot tub kept you from it. It didn't block your view from the inside of the house, so that was good. The only thing I was slightly worried about was if you had young children, you would definitely have to keep an eye on them not going near that hot tub because, young children, I'm talking 3-4 years old, they have been known to drown in a hot tub. So you just have to put in safety features for the kids. But that's something you easily added.
The other thing that's kind of interesting, speaking about the winters and the outdoor living, didn't see any outdoor heating, any of the...
that would have been great to put some outdoor heaters on the deck.
Yeah, I mean, we've got the outdoor heater we used in Seattle in the summer.
Yeah, many a 4th of July in Seattle, we sat on our deck, and I repeat, it was the 4th of July, and we're under our little heater watching the fireworks from our deck.
That's true. We had a heater on the deck, and then we had the other space heater back by our pool, which was also we didn't use either of those in the winter.
No, in the winter we didn't go outside, but in the summer you need it. So in Utah, I think it does get hot in the summer, but if you want a transitional season. having that heater lets you have that outdoor eating and what have you. So, but that's
that
not a
would've-
knock on Tristan and Kamohai.
No, but it would have been.
It's-
It would have made. It would make the hot tub a little bit easier to use. But that's easily remediable. You can always get something that
So then they did a fire pit, and was the fire. So they had 3 sections of their yard. Well, there was a big pickleball court.
Right.
There was a red gravel section,
Right.
and then there was a grass section.
Right.
And I'm trying to remember, was the fire pit in the gravel section or
Yes.
the grass section?
Yes.
Okay. So the gravel section had a fire pit in the middle.
Right.
The grass section had apropos of nothing, like a couch in the middle.
Right.
And then they had the pickleball court.
Right.
And then they also had next to the porch, they had a cold plunge
Right.
and an outdoor shower.
Right. Yeah.
So
So they were the one team that had the stairs coming out to the yard coming out like the very front of it.
yeah, now that was a nice feature.
And I
yeah.
thought that was smart because you come out and you go right back down, and the other teams went left or right. I think 2 of the teams went left, 1 team went right. But yeah, you come out into the yard, and that leads you onto the gravel, which is the side where there's the fire pit and the seating, and then you go across from that through the grass section to the pickleball court, which. And then there's the shower and the cold plunge that I couldn't figure out how you would get in or out of it. It looked like it's this big barrel, and I don't know. I mean, it had a little cap on it. It didn't look like there was a door. I don't know, and I thought I'm not
It
as
was a
nimble
weird
as,
placement for a cold plunge.
Yeah.
And then I just don't know about the outdoor shower. I mean, I guess if you're playing pickleball, you could rinse off. But normally when you see an outdoor shower, it's associated with the pool or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
So I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it looked nice, and their composite or cement 3D graphic was that they used for an enclosure for the shower. I thought that looked good. I think the good call out was that the entrance into the shower shouldn't be to the yard. I think Tristan and Kamohai may have been thinking that you would not be naked, but as you point out, you're not in a pool, so it's not like you've got waterproof clothes
I guess that's the
on.
weird thing. You've got your clothes on, like you're playing pickleball or something. You're probably wearing shorts or whatever.
Yeah.
Then are you going to strip down naked and
Right.
get into the outdoor shower and then put your sweaty clothes back on? Or maybe
where do you
maybe
put your
it's
clothes?
maybe it's just
You put your clothes in the cold plunge, and that way you rinse them off.
I don't know. Or maybe you're supposed to cold plunge and then get in the shower, or you go in the hot tub on the deck, you run down, you get in the cold plunge, you get in the. I don't know. It just it didn't work for
No,
me.
it
I mean, you
didn't,
had
no.
3 elements, but it didn't feel
No.
like a wellness space. It felt like here's a cold plunge,
And I don't
here's
know
a
how you're
shower.
getting out of that cold plunge.
No, okay. It's like a barrel.
It's a barrel.
There had to be a ladder or a step stool or something on the backside.
Which looked dangerous. I'm like, how in the world are you going to get out of this thing? I mean, I guess if you're an athlete and you're used to jumping in, you're jumping out. But just, for the average Joe here, or
Yeah,
Jill,
I would probably never use that cold plunge if it were me. But
well, I'm
yeah,
not
I
sure
don't
I
know.
would ever use a cold plunge. I know they're supposed to be really good.
It is a big hit these
I
days,
know.
but I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm not,
I've had the ice stick my ankle in a bucket of ice. I did not like that.
I've done cold plunge before, and it is supposed to be very good for your health.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe
you're
if I
so
had
happy
one,
to
I
get
would
out.
get
Yeah, it's the endorphins and everything. Hey, I'm out of it now. Woo!
Life is so much better when you're not in the cold plunge that it makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that, well, first of all, Tristan was throwing all kinds of shade at Alison this week because she's like, we put the pickleball court outside where it belongs. And she's going on. And I do agree with her. Alison's pickleball court in the basement was ridiculous.
Yeah,
but,
and it just occurred to me when we were watching the show, I noticed that, it abutted the wall, and it's more like racquetball.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you play the rebound off the wall. But yeah, here it was right next to a kind of what we call a waste area in golf. But if the ball gets away from you, then you're having to traipse through all those plants and stuff. I think
they really needed the fence.
Yeah, and they spent $3,000. Their $3,000 winnings went to an upgraded net, which I don't know.
I would say put a fence around the pickleball court.
I would say, put some netting around it, and that would be better.
I also think, you could use that for other things in a pickleball court,
Yeah.
but it would have been interesting to display that,
Right.
because you could use it as a basketball court.
In which case you'd need a net around it.
Yeah, in which case you'd need a net, or you could use it as, tennis or whatever. I mean, having a sport court in your backyard is a great idea, but they were just showcasing one dimension for pickleball. So I think if you were staging this house, and we've talked about their staging challenges, if you were staging this house, you would probably want to stage it to emphasize this is a sports court, not a pickleball court. And you could play pickleball, or you could do other things on this sports court that would be, family friendly. And in a way, it's just as family friendly as the giant play set that Chelsea and Cole put up there, because it could work for young kids. They could be kicking a soccer ball around, or just, doing, little kid activities, or it could be good for teens who want to play basketball or want to do other types of sports. Yeah,
and the reality is that they didn't really, if they're just going to have a sport court and advertise it as such, I mean, okay, you wanted it to be a pickleball court. People that play pickleball would recognize it's a pickleball court, but you don't have the net across it and spend the money on that. You could spend the money on something else and say, here's a sport court that is designed to be a pickleball court. And you're like, oh, okay, got it. Now you have to do is buy a net and you're done, right?
Yeah.
So...
the $3,000 for that, I think, was kind of, because nobody's going to buy this house because of a $3,000 upgrade net on the pickleball court. Well, I shouldn't say nobody if your passion is pickleball, but that's,
Yeah, but the first thing you're going to do is put some netting around it so that you don't have to go chase your ball down down through all your vegetation.
Yeah.
After you build a wall around your yard.
Yeah, so those are kind of my thoughts on Tristan and Kamohai, Team Aloha. Mm-hmm. Anything you want to add to this part?
I guess looking back up to the deck, they did stone-wrapped columns, which I thought also looked good, which is different. And they had a little dining room table with a bench on it. And so I thought that, their outdoor living space looked cute. They did the wood and everything as well. So I think their deck was fine. Again, they spent a lot of their effort out, and it did look very disjoint from up above.
And they plumbed that gas line to the middle of the yard for the fire pit.
Yeah.
Everyone was acting like that was a big deal. I don't know.
Well,
you can never change the location of the fire pit.
It just costs money.
It costs money.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on where you would rather have it as to how much it would cost. I don't know. I don't know that bothers me so much as that just the yard looked like it had a personality problem. And the cold plunge. I just could not. I kept going back, and I kept rewinding, trying to figure out how do you get in this cold plunge.
You're just thinking of like these old sports teams, like getting into a big barrel of ice, like after a tough football practice, and that was kind of the vibe. It wasn't luxury to me.
Yeah,
it was
back when I was volunteering at your school. And I talked to one of the guys who was on the basketball team, and they had a cold plunge that was a barrel. And I asked him, I said, how do you get out of that? He said, somebody has to help you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And this is a high school, I think you told me he's, 20, was he 20?
I don't know.
Well, he's kind of an older high school student. And but he's, like 5'10", something like that. And athletic. And he says, yeah, somebody's got to help you get out. So it's like, I'm looking at this going, I can't get out of that thing.
No,
I'm going to hurt myself.
Yeah, I would be stuck in it. Then I would not be happy.
Yeah, and I guess it's big enough for your average person. I mean, I'm 6'2", but I don't know.
Anyway, okay.
But other than that, I have nothing more to say.
Other than talking some more about the things that we've already said, we have nothing more to say.
Yeah, cold plunge doesn't bother me at all.
All right, Stephen, let's take a quick break and we will move on.
The cultural phenomenon The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives is back with an all-new season now streaming on Hulu.
Where is everyone at?
Mom talk has gotten to a really hostile point.
Demi's willing to kick Jesse out of the group.
I feel like I'm walking into a lion's den.
It's gonna get messy, for sure.
Mom talk is turning on each other left and right.
The police are here.
I can't see this going any other way but a pure bloodbath.
This is so toxic.
The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives now streaming on Hulu.
Okay, we're back, and I should mention that we are not associated with HGTV. We are not designers. We are not contractors. One of my friends recently asked me, what qualifications do you have to do this podcast? And I said,
We've got 2 microphones.
none. We have no qualifications at all. Other than the fact that we do love design, we love the show, and we have done a number of extensive remodels in houses that we've lived in. So that's about all we've got going for us.
Well, and we're not shy to go through open houses of our neighbors or anywhere else that we happen to see an interesting house.
Oh, and Steven, speaking of open houses, we got invited to go to the open house for these Rock the Block houses in Utah next weekend. So after the final show, we will have one more episode, which will be our live and in-person assessment of the 4 houses.
I was going to say,
on
we're not
Rock
doing
the
it
Block.
live when we're there.
No. But we're going to, I'm so excited. After seeing these on TV for 7 weeks, Stephen and I are going to go tour the actual finished homes.
Yeah.
And we're going to bring to you, our listeners, our unvarnished opinion of these houses and where we thought the judging was on point and where it wasn't on point. And maybe, hopefully, some things that we'll see that were never shown on TV. So we are super excited to go on this trip and to bring this to you.
Yeah. Us and everybody else got invited, but that's okay. We got invited.
We got personally invited.
We got a...
Do not undermine the podcast, Stephen. Jeez, I tell you, marketing. Anyway, let's move on to Alison and Michel, who did Refined Rustic, or as you said earlier, maybe it's Refined Rusty in this particular case.
Yeah.
So here's a situation where I just don't know what's going on with Alison and Michel, right? Because they did a beautiful job on the deck. They wrapped everything in cedar. The front, the flooring, the pillars, the ceiling, and the outside of the deck. Yeah. It looked so beautiful. And then they did a hot tub near the deck, and they also wrapped that in cedar. And I thought it looked really terrific. And so if you were standing behind the house and looking toward the house at this deck and this hot tub and everything, you would have thought, yes, this is refined. This is beautiful.
Yep.
But if you were standing on this beautiful deck, you were treated to what looked like a corrugated container cart. Yes.
After the nuclear proliferation, after
even with
war.
the words Bob's Container proudly displayed on top of one of the units, which you would have been able to see from the deck. Now, I'm guessing they had to keep that Bob's Container on there for advertising because Bob probably gave them a deal on this casita, in order to get the advertising. And maybe they'll paint it eventually, but it was really something.
Well, and I guess since we're calling out people who were doing their blatant advertising, Picus Industries is the company that had that concrete 3D printer. And they made sure that their name was everywhere. But it didn't look like they popped it onto the things that they did, so it wasn't obvious from that standpoint. But yeah, lots of product placement. I noticed one of the hot tub guys had a towel riled up with their logo that the camera just happened to catch.
Oh yeah, tons of product placement, right? Which is how they can do everything they do for the amount that they spend. Trust me, having done some remodels, you might think $250,000 is a lot to spend on the interior of a house.
No,
we pretty much spent that on a bathroom remodel.
Yeah,
so the budget isn't good, but they're able to stretch this budget, I think, with some of these advertising deals they get.
Yeah, we basically redid our master suite and the secondary bathroom and our front door for about that.
Yeah. So.
And that was years ago.
I don't know what was going through their heads. They did the whole backyard in gravel, right? Which I guess has
because they didn't have the money.
Yeah, they didn't have the money to put down sod.
$2,000 less to do gravel than grass.
And I mean, it is low maintenance. I mean, I would say grass in a desert climate like that, you've got to have an irrigation system. It's probably not native. It doesn't look like there's any grass anywhere around where these homes are. But I'm just not loving a stone backyard. Like, you can't walk barefoot. You can't.
You trip and fall and you skin your knee.
Yeah, you can't have kids running around in a stone backyard.
There's
I mean,
traction.
put a sports court or something. It just
AstroTurf.
It made the backyard very unusable for anything but, I guess, sitting or milling around with a glass of wine or something, right? You're not going to be able to be active in a backyard like that.
Yeah, they even. And I was looking at this and I was going, well, I mean, maybe the first thing I would do is put down a bunch of pavers on the routes that I normally go on, because you would like to. It'd be nice to have a guaranteed level surface after you've had a couple of glasses of wine at 10 o'clock at night and you're walking back to the house, instead of, tripping over, however the wind has blown your rocks or whatnot. So yeah, I thought that looked a little on the, I would not want that to be my backyard. So
yeah, and then you've got the casita or container, which number one is pretty much an eyesore.
Well, if you call it by a name in a foreign language, then it sounds better.
It did. Casita sounds much better than
it's a
ugly-ass container. Yeah, I mean, if you really lived there and you wanted to have that, I would grow up some bushes I would paint it, and then I would put some bushes or something, maybe. What do you call it, where it's like a roof over
not a gondola,
pergola out in front of it or something. Give it a little character, put some greenery around it. I mean, you could make it look okay.
Yeah.
And I guess you could...
a pergola there would be nice. It would give a little bit of shade to the front of the casita and, kind of break up the whole view. That's that. Yeah, that's...
You put a pergola, you put a couple chairs there, you put a lot of bushes and greenery, so it kind of looks, it hides the sort of, out exterior of it. I mean, you could make that look nice if you had the money, right? Yeah. And then the question is, do you need this extra dwelling unit in your backyard? And if you do, great. I mean, if not, well, you could always rent it out, so it's extra income. That would be a great rental unit if that was something you wanted to do. Or it's a perfect, like, mother-in-law or something like that, right? Yeah. So,
and perfect for a mother-in-law with a walker having to go across all that gravel. If you're going to know she's coming. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Oh, look at her. Here comes the mother-in-law.
Oh, no. Grandma's down again.
She's on the loose. Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Yeah. If you wanted to have your elderly relatives living in this, you would probably want to put down a nice, smooth pathway from the main house out to the casita.
To your neighbor's house.
Yeah.
So they get,
Yeah. Now, to her point, she said, hey, you could use this as an office or a studio too, which is another good idea. Like if you have a work from home situation, that could easily be, instead of having the 2 bedrooms, you could transform that into a home office.
But a she shed or
yeah, it would be a great home office. You've got a kitchen, you've got a bathroom, you could go out there and work. You wouldn't have to come back and forth into the house all day. You'd have privacy. So, I mean, there's some versatility there in what you can do with that I think is more than just, it's 2 extra bedrooms, right?
And it did look like they had put a deck on top of the one that wasn't the
on
advertisement.
top of one unit, they had a little deck, which would have been a nice place to sit and enjoy the view.
Well, it was very steep little ladder going up to that sucker. So I guess if you could do something else to have a little bit easier transition. But yeah, it was just like a straight up ladder as far as I could tell.
Yeah, I think my overall assessment is that it's not a bad idea. Well, no, it's not a bad idea to put a separate unit out there.
Yeah.
But they needed about another $50,000 to landscape it, finish it, make it look nice.
Right.
Put the pergola or whatever out there and really make it look like something that would be cool. And then you have that space. I think a lot of people are working from home,
right.
Great home office, great rental unit, great.
Yeah.
You can do things with it. But as it was, they didn't have enough money to really integrate it into their design and make it look like something that would be desirable to people.
Well, and, kind of looking at the previews for next week, it looks like Team Paint It Black might be bringing in an outbuilding that is also a sort of external residence that just from the quick brush did actually look nice. So it's most likely that they could have gotten something that was in their budget that was an exterior buildings workspace that looked better. I mean, just from the start. I mean, I don't know how much they spent. I don't know how much these other things cost. I don't know how much any of that stuff costs. But yeah, they could have started off with something that looked a little nicer and then built onto it. And I don't know what the costs were for what, we haven't gotten to the Jonathan team, but that their greenhouse thing even looked nicer. I mean, just.
So, I mean, I think it's, you had a situation where you had two teams. I would say Team Aloha and Tristan and Michel. They both had ideas that added value, like the sports court or the extra outside housing, but it really wasn't fully visualized. It just became pickleball court with nothing around it and ugly looking, container unit.
Right.
Whereas the idea was there, but the execution wasn't there. But there was versatility in both of those. I mean, with that outdoor housing unit, you could do a lot. With the sports court, you could do a lot. Whereas for Chelsea and Cole, less versatile. That is a kids' play area, and there's not really anything you can do to use it for anything but a kids' play area. Yeah.
Well, I think kind of missed that Alison and Michel did have that one seating area. There was a fire pit that was not plumbed, and it was on a concrete tile, and the tile looked nice. I mean, you kind of missed the seating area in the midst of all this other stuff going on. But, there was an idea that looked nice, that actually looked like it was good in its element. And it looked disjoint from everything else because of everything else that was going on. But that one particular area looked nice and functional. But it just I don't know. It just makes you wonder.
Didn't like the gravel, didn't like the exterior, the container unit. They did get a lot of kudos for their planners, though. For their 3D printing, they made those planners. Well, I thought those were attractive. I mean, of all the things people did
just to clarify, I was just rolling my eyes, and so Amy was reacting to that. I can't really tell that because this is not video, but they had two planners. Woohoo! The planters looked nice.
They did
look nice.
Although the plants were kind of dead in them. I think they could have gotten better plants. But, hey,
I don't know.
We're nitpicking.
I don't know. I think it wasn't the worst idea. It wasn't the worst. My favorite idea for that 3D printing was Tristan and Kamahai's. I thought that little enclosure looked nice.
But the outdoor shower made no sense.
Well, in Chelsea and Cole, they made a little fence pieces to go behind a bench that was in the yard. It was like it was a throwaway.
Yeah, I didn't care for that.
At least here they had a couple of planters. And the planters did look nice, but it doesn't look like nothing looks like it goes together.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it all matches the gravel.
If gravel's your key theme for your design element, I think
this is the
you're
house
going
for you.
down the direction, the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's take a quick break, and we will talk about the final team and, spoiler alert, the winning team, Jonathan and Jordan.
The cultural phenomenon The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives is back with an all-new season now streaming on Hulu.
Where is everyone at?
Mom talk has gotten to a really hostile point.
Demi's willing to kick Jesse out of the group.
I feel like I'm working into a lion's den.
It's gonna get messy, for sure.
Mom talk is turning on each other left and right.
The police are here.
I can't see this going any other way but a pure bloodbath.
This is so toxic.
The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, now streaming on Hulu.
Okay, Jonathan and Jordan really were the only team that leaned into the theme for their house with the modern farmhouse because they actually had livestock in their backyard as part of their design. So, they did 2 outbuildings. They did a greenhouse, which also could be used as an entertainment space in the winter, which is how they staged it, which I thought was super smart. Right? Because it's cold out there in the winter. That greenhouse is going to be a nice warm space where you're outside in a glass enclosure, kind of fun, and you could use it as a greenhouse if you had a green thumb. And so they had they didn't have a fence, but their backyard was bordered.
They didn't have a fence. Yeah, that came up.
But they did define the space, right? Because they had a greenhouse on one side. They had the mini barn thing directly across from the deck. Yep. And then on the other side, they had 3 large planters. 4. So our soon-to-be niece would love this house.
Yeah.
She loves gardening, the raised garden beds, the greenhouse.
She's looking for a barn on her property.
Well, the barn, as they pointed out, the barn could be used as a dog kennel or something else. So, if you don't like animals, it's probably not going to have a lot of utility, but you don't necessarily have to have goats.
Well, yeah, but you can't. It can't be the residence for a large dog because the entry between the outdoor area and the bedding area was not big enough for anything too large. And then, I don't know. I don't know. I know. It was a nice looking building, but I just really doubt the functionality of it.
A lot of people these days are having chicken coops and stuff like that, which it could also be used for. So I don't know. It wouldn't be my thing. But
that wouldn't.
It had
you'd
some
you'd have to do
versatility.
something else to it to make it a chicken coop. But.
So if you looked at the aerial view, you had the 3 buildings on the outside, and then they had grass all on the inside with the fire pit in the middle. So of all the designs, this one to me looked the most unified and had a fair amount of versatility. Like if you loved gardening, this is the house for you. If you don't love gardening, you could do other things with it. And actually, that mini barn could be a children's playhouse. Like when I was a kid, I would set that up as a playhouse, a clubhouse type of thing, and use it like that.
Okay, I can see that. Mm-hmm. Like as far as the greenhouse goes, I did notice that when Alison went into it, she said it was really warm, and it isn't necessarily that warm there. Right now, or with the time when they were doing this. So it just makes me wonder, since it's not air conditioned, just how much of the year could you use it as an outdoor space, right? So in the summer, when it's 90 degrees, and you've got all that glass, you can't use it as an outdoor space unless you air condition it.
Well, it did have electricity and plumbing, so you could probably
you could do that. You could put some other controls into it and make it into that. But as it was, not so much. But it did look nice the way they had staged. The Snoop Dogg wine looked very presentable. And, I think it was a very nice looking building. And I think if they'd had that and had a fence, they would have been fine. I think the lack of a fence was demonstrated by our judges, that the goats got away, and there were production assistants everywhere tracking down these goats wrangling the goats because they're quick. These goats are they're not sitting around waiting to be caught. They're ready for yoga.
So they didn't do much on the deck except for one very smart element. They put the animated blinds there, which I thought was super smart. Yep. If the sun's coming in, you're sitting, because they've got those big accordion doors and they've got the glass rails around the deck. Yep. So if the sun's shining in there, you can use those automated blinds to, block the sun, or even, cool it off in the summer if you want to be out there. Yeah. So really smart move on the automated blinds.
Yeah, the one thing I've wondered about is that the automated blinds would block the staircase to the yard. So that's when I started thinking, oh, maybe they should have, moved the staircase to a place where they could have put, a door or something, and so that, you wouldn't have to raise and lower one of these things if somebody wanted to go through the yard, come back, and you were still trying to, block the sun. I mean, it's kind of a nitpick. They were really nice. We really love those things. I'm not sure about the bug component in Utah. I don't know if they get a lot of bugs.
Yeah, I don't know either.
But probably get enough that it would be annoying. We didn't get a lot of bugs in Washington, but if you got a couple, it was just like, oh gosh, now they're in the house. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was nice. That was the nice component about their deck. Otherwise, their deck was just meh.
And their 3D project was basically a bench. So they had a bench.
A bench that the two of them barely fit on.
Yeah. I didn't think that was the best use of it. But, well, at least they have a bench in the backyard. And it's pretty heavy, so it's not going to blow over in the Utah winds.
Yeah, and they had it in the back. They had it back there next to the barn. And I think there was they draped some little blanket over it. And I think there was another chair. I mean, that had to be like really one of the most throwaway parts of everything they did.
Yeah. Yeah. Most of it was pretty cohesive. And I think actually that's why they won. Chelsea and Cole had a cohesive design, but very niche, one use only. And I felt like Jonathan Jordan had a cohesive design that could be used in a variety of different ways, So I do agree with the judging this week. I think they had the best overall choice. I like certain things for Tristan and Kamahai, I really loved the hot tub. Judges didn't love it. I loved it. For Alison and Michel, I really loved the look of their back deck and their hot tub. Did not love the look of the container. But Jonathan Jordan, there wasn't anything that I really disliked, and I thought overall it seemed to fit together.
The cultural phenomenon The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives is back with an all-new season now streaming on Hulu.
Where is everyone at?
Mom talk has gotten to a really hostile point.
Demi's willing to kick Jesse out of the group.
I feel like I'm working into a lion's den.
It's going to get messy, for sure.
Mom talk is turning on each other left and right.
The police are here.
I can't see this going any other way but a pure bloodbath.
This is so toxic.
The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives now streaming on Hulu.
Yeah, I would say judging the decks. My favorite deck was Alison and Michel's, followed close by Tristan and Kamahai. The backyard, I think the best backyard was Chelsea and Cole. It was fenced, it was grassed. There were components of everything. To me, I think both Chelsea and Cole and Jonathan and Jordan did nothing with their deck. They did nothing, but the old kids on the block did have those blinds, and I think that's what won it. I think if they hadn't done that, Chelsea and Cole probably would have won.
Oh, I'm not sure who would have won, but I think the blinds was certainly instrumental in their win.
I think that was key to their win.
Well, and you know what? Didn't last year Lindsay and Lindsay had an automated blind on their back
that's right.
deck.
Yeah.
So back to the point, if you know what the judges either done in their house or this must be an element they like because they put it on their deck last year. That really contributes. So like, oh, this is a smart idea because we did it. So I think that did influence the judging on that one.
I think they did. I think that automated blinds was a key factor in making and giving JJ the win.
JJ.
Yeah. And no shocker going into the last week. It's tied between the rookies and the veterans. Shocker.
Yeah.
So I think one of the pros, the 1.5 pros that they've got in the 4 was going to win, and oh my gosh, I just think Alison and Michel they just blew it again. But this time they had a budget to blow it with. It's not like this time they blew it because they didn't have any money except the $2,000 for the grass.
Yeah, I
Although grass would not have helped that backyard.
So I think grass would have helped a lot personally, but yeah.
They wouldn't have won. They would not have won.
Well, that brings me to this, Stephen. Who do you think is going to be the overall winner? I'm really not sure.
Yeah, that's a good question. Now,
because it's based purely on added value. So it's not creativity, it's not design, it's the end choice is value added to the house.
All right, if we want to go back to the theory that the team that spends the most money wins, which has been true except for 1 week, it did work. It was this week because they did spend the most. They had it was a tie with them and Alison and Michel, but Team Aloha decided not to spend any extra money. They spent the $1,500 from their win last week, but other than that, they spent nothing else. If you want to go off that, next week, the last week, it's Cole and Chelsea by a wide margin. Alison and Michel have $20K going into it. John and Jordan somehow $40K, which the math doesn't make sense. And then Tristan and Kamohai will have $40K, and then Cole and Chelsea $55. So they have the most money going into next week. And I don't know.
I think it's anybody's game. I mean, they did add the shower to Michel and Colsey did add the shower to the front of their house, which that's going to get them some major points for added value. I don't know how much Alison and Michel are going to get for the added living space in the casita, but that does add 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, and a kitchen. So maybe that does pay off. I'm not sure. I think there's a lot of me that says that Team Aloha has really added value and has a very cohesive design. There's not any particular space that I love, but I think when we see the overall tour of their house, which we will be seeing in person, there's something that tells me that their house is going to hang together really well, although I cannot get over the wall of plants. But and Jonathan and Jordan, I think, have done surprisingly well. I mean, I liked the music studio in the basement. I don't know how much credit they'll get for that, but that's a nice addition. The outbuildings. So I think it's kind of anybody's game. I do worry, though, that Alison and Michel do not have enough money left to properly finish their spaces. Yeah. And even though I think they were the big front runner, and taste-wise, I think their tastes align to mine a lot. I'm not confident that they're going to win. In fact, I'm fairly confident that they're not going to win, but we'll see.
Yeah, I agree. I think Alison and Michel started out really strong, but they spent too much money the first week, and then they seem to have struggled with the money aspect and with having the 2 designer approach. They keep coming back to that, how that's a strength. I think that has actually been a problem.
Yeah.
Jordan and Jonathan,
they've done better than I expected.
They have done better than I expected, but I don't think their house is my favorite. But I mean, the thing that's going to totally weigh it is that the judge's name is Jonathan. So I think you just,
just write the
right
name on the street
that's
right now.
That's right. So Jonathan Scott from Property Brothers and a host of other shows, I guess currently Celebrity IOU, will be the judge next week, judging the completed homes, including the newly renovated exteriors, guest rooms, and balconies.
Ooh.
Team Painted Black, I don't see them winning. I just don't. But I think that Team Aloha is a pretty strong front runner. I think maybe it comes down to Team Aloha and the Farmhouse Boys.
We'll see. Well, I'm excited because it feels like in prior years there was pretty clear, who were the front runners.
Yeah.
This year, I really think it's up in the air, and there's a lot of work to do next week. The whole exterior, all the extra rooms, everything else in the house. So I'm excited to see the whole house is put together next week and see who actually ends up taking the crown.
Yeah, and I guess just letting everybody know, next week we had a previously determined and poorly timed trip set up, so we will be out of town and won't be able to do the podcast until Thursday, which it's Thursday, so it's similar. We're not getting any. We're not getting the podcast earlier in the week.
We keep promising that it's going to come out earlier, and we have failed every week. We should just stop making promises. I think.
But probably we can get the personal view podcast done before Thursday of the following week, but we'll see how that goes. But we should be able to. But
all right,
who knows?
So, any final words, Stephen, or are we ready to wrap it up for this week?
Oh, how do you get in that cold plunge? No, I'm good.
All right. Well, hey, thank you.
I'm going to try to get in that cold plunge when we get out there.
Yeah, well, we're oh, no. So our next episode will be from the local jail. Where
No, the next episode is next week when we get back from our trip. And the week after that will be from the Salt Lake City Institutional Institute or Penal Institute or whatever.
Or maybe as we're trying to extract Stephen for the podcast, the cold plunge.
That's probably it.
And here we are in the hospital as Stephen has hypothermia from spending 5 hours in the cold plunge.
They just couldn't get him out. Who knew?
All right. Well, hey, thanks for listening. We'll be back next week with the final. And this is Amy and Stephen for Talk the Block.